Okay, so going on to why I'm gonna write my own opera from scratch. Yes, it's so I can control the details. But why do I want to control the details? Well, first of all, composers are super anal, whereas we need to be in control. We need to be in control. So what do you expect? What do you expect? But what are the things that I want to do that I feel like aren't being addressed or not being addressed sufficiently? Let me tell you, when you sit in an opera, you have to think about the people sitting in the back, aka my mom and myself. When we go to the opera, we sit in the back. Okay, it's all we can afford, or that's also what we want to spend our money for. And at the Met, by the way, in the back, the sound is amazing, amazing. But that means that you can't see the stage very well. So when you're writing an opera, you need to be aware of that. And if you're writing the storyline, you have to be able to think about that. So for example, in my opera, the main character, Marcel, is gay. Though I don't know if it's not a big deal. It's not like that's not the focus, but he does fall in love with a man. And one of the themes in the opera on the side are these trials taking place for people who have committed sins, but I don't know if I'm going to mention homosexuality directly. I think I would like it just kind of vague, you know, but we'll see. It depends. Because I like when opera looks back. It always has to look back in history, you know. So, but what is the challenge when you have like a love scene between two men is acoustically, we don't hear the difference as much. The contrast between the female voice and the male voice is very obvious. You can always distinguish it. Always distinguish it. But for myself, even as a professional composer, if I go to the opera, even if it's a higher male voice and a lower male, unless it's the bass you can always tell. But if it's a baritone and a tenor, many times I can't tell who's singing. I gotta really watch the screen, and that causes stress, you know. So that's one of the hard things about the opera. You have to balance between looking at the stage and looking at the text. So that's something I would be thinking about when I write my opera. A librettist probably isn't thinking to that level, or maybe. I haven't interviewed a librettist. I'm curious how they think about these things. So I would have to think about how am I going to convey it well in the music, but also in the libretto, so that we always know who's speaking, so the listener and the viewer doesn't get confused, because I don't want them confused. Another thing that I absolutely love in opera are choruses. If an opera does not have a full chorus, I am always disappointed. Always disappointed. Sorry, I'm going to get a little closer. It's a little cold here. If an opera does not have a chorus, I get a little disappointed. I love the chorus. It adds so much. Even like the Passions of Bach, which are not operatic technically, but could almost feel that way. The choruses have always provided a very important role to narrate the story, to push the action forward. Certainly already we see that with the first great opera, Orfeo by Mussorgsky. So because I'm creating my own opera from scratch, I know that musically it's very powerful. Audiences love to have a chorus. So then when I create the libretto, I can incorporate that. Obviously I can't just throw it in willy-nilly. It has to be thought out. Why is there a chorus? What's the function? But I can think about these end musical results that I see and address them dramatically in the libretto in the story. Do you understand what I'm saying? Other things, I love a ballet, okay? I love ballet so much. I'm hoping to go to ballet class tomorrow, though I got an email back saying I have to pay some subscription fee. No, I'm just here for 1 month. I'm not paying a subscription fee. I'll take care of that tomorrow. But I love a ballet. Typically in opera, if there is a ballet, usually there isn't, but that was a tradition for a while, so you can find it. It's going to be in the 4th act if there's 5 acts. So it's kind of like the entertainment section. Usually the 4th act, if there's 5 acts, is there's just a little lighter, and that's when the dancing happens. And then, of course, the big event will happen in the 5th act. So I love a ballet. I'm often disappointed, actually, with ballets I see in opera, because it doesn't replace going to the real ballet, you know? The dancing is never as complex. It just feels more just showy. So definitely when I do get this opera stage, I would want to have a hand in who choreographs it, and I want to specify that I want real dancing. It doesn't have to be ballet, classical dancing. And in fact, in this opera, I already see I want modern dance. I see a certain kind of style. I hear the music that I want that's going to inspire the dancing that I want. So because I know the audiences like to have a ballet, it's great for them. It gives jobs to dancers as well. It's really important. And it's just great to have a ballet. Also, some people might not get exposure to ballet unless they see it in the opera. But honestly, if they're at the opera, they probably have already seen ballet. But I really want a ballet. So now, because I know I want the ballet, when I'm creating the libretto, I have to think, what's the justification? You see? So I can already mitigate these. This is why I'm creating it from scratch. If someone else was giving me the libretto, maybe there's no way I can fit it. I can't force in the ballet, right? Even if I was working with someone that said I want a ballet, maybe I don't agree with his or her way of incorporating, okay? So it's just about controlling the whole experience. I want the audience to have an amazing time. Other things I've observed just as a lay person, but also as a professional composer, we're going to opera. The first 15 minutes, they let people in. So you better believe the first 15 minutes, I'm not going to have anything tender, you know. We need to hook the audience in for sure in the first 15 minutes, but you can't have like something super tender. For example, if you know Verdi's what's the Traviata, super, oh la 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 la, magnifique, okay. But unfortunately, that heart-wrenching prelude or whatever you call it, overture or whatever, is often destroyed because people are still getting to their seats, they're still turning off their phones. So having a more modern perspective, I can write an opera that fits modern times. I think that's very important because we see opera audiences are dying out. The youth is not interested in opera. So another thing I would be thinking about when I create my opera is attention spans. For example, Wagner's operas, one of the reasons why they're so difficult is that you have characters singing for 10 minutes straight. And maybe it's not 10 minutes straight, maybe it's 8 minutes straight, 6 minutes is too long. It's a slow, there's not a clear rhythm. Though I was told recently by my grad school teacher, Jill Feigen, that a lot of times the reason why it feels long is that it's just the conductor, the issue with pacing. And in fact, it has to be slower to really feel the rhythm. Regardless, I don't think most people can stomach 6 minutes of operatic singing straight, just one person. So knowing this, I would consciously, in my libretto, make sure there's enough interaction between characters. Though there will be times we do need to hear a character express their full feelings out loud for an extended period, but I would definitely be balancing all these things to ensure that the audience has the attention span. Another thing that I'm thinking about is I want a cliffhanger before intermission. Better believe. And Lord have mercy, I have a cliffhanger. Okay? I'll give it away though. He's going to be betrayed. Marcel is going to be betrayed by his lover right before intermission. And I'm going to give it away. I mean, whatever. Opera, we're supposed to know it. So the brief story of the long story short of the whole opera is Marcel is like in his early 20s, and he's very loyal to his king. And he goes to a foreign country in order to get treasure for his king. But in the foreign country, he's treated very terribly. He's even in prison at one point. He's treated with deep suspicion, and he's considered like just kind of like a vermin or something like that. But he falls in love with a younger man, and then that's what keeps him going. And then he finds that everyone betrayed him, even the young man. And there's also a slave that plays a very important role, who is actually a former queen or princess who has kind of lost her position and is disguised as a slave. So he confides in the slave, and he talks about how much he loves his lover, Mehdi. And then he finds that, and the lowest of them all, quote unquote, the slave, he finds that the slave betrayed him the most, if not more than Mehdi, his lover. So he's really goes at the pit of despair. And the pivotal scene that I'm still like constructing in my head is throughout this whole time, Marcel has a picture of his queen. The queen is dead, but he has a frame or painting of this the queen, and the king has given him this to remember, like remember your mother, like because there's this theme of family, which is symbolized through loyalty to country. I see it as the same in this opera. Your loyalty to your country, your loyalty for family, and throughout the opera, we will see that Marcel has an undying, like just almost, it's not stubborn, it's just like instinctive, like a lock towards loyalty to family, and he'll never betray his family. Never betray his family. And he was steadfastly loyal. And so he has this picture of the queen, his painting of the queen, that he keeps safe, and he showed Mehdi, his lover, this, like this is, my queen, my mother, not literally my mother, but like the queen who's dead, but this reminds me of my mission. And then there's a scene where Mehdi is asked to denounce his lover, Marcel. And I think I haven't fully worked the details, but Marcel is asked to denounce Mehdi, but Marcel refuses. He's just so loyal. And then the queen, the evil queen, gets Mehdi, Marcel's lover, whispers to him, and then she asks him, where is the painting? And then Mehdi betrays him and tells him where the painting is. And then on stage, and this point is right before intermission, so of course everyone's on stage. And you have the full chorus, you have the townspeople, even the dancers maybe, and you have all the main characters on stage. And then, so the guards, and like, basically Marcel is being tortured, if not physically tortured. At this point he's in chains, but he has some movement, but he's being mentally tortured. And they want him to betray his lover, which he refuses to do. They want him to recant for being homosexual, which he refuses to do. He's like, c'est pas un crime, which means it's not a crime, He refuses. They want him to denounce his family, he refuses. So he's just like, so like foolishly like loyal, it's so beautiful, the way he's so steadfastly loyal. And they want him to denounce Mehdi, he refuses. And so finally they get Mehdi, his lover, to reveal where the painting is of the queen. But Marcel is just in a delirium, he doesn't realize. And then finally they bring out the painting, and then they burn his painting. They burn the painting of his mother, the queen, not literally his mother, but the queen. They burn the painting. And I want the audience to smell the smoke, if possible. But this is right before the intermission, they're gonna burn his painting. But Marcel is in a delirium, he's in chains as well, so he doesn't see that they brought out the painting of his queen, his mother. He doesn't know that they're burning it until he smells the smoke. So he's like in delirium, and he looks up, and he sees his beautiful mother burning, and he sees the ultimate betrayal. His lover betrayed him, and he sees his mother disintegrating before him. And he's in horror, and he screams, and I have to figure out what he's gonna scream, because it has to be something strong. I gotta really work on my French there. But he screams, and he's horrified, and it just ends up with him screaming, and then everyone just kind of leaves the stage. And I want some muscly men for the guards. I gotta have that for my, I want to just like, so, we're gonna think of kind of like Roman, what we would think of gladiator costumes. Like, I think I might place this story in ancient Egypt, I'm not really sure, because I have a number of Arab names for some of the characters, which I'm just trying to figure out why. Like with Mehdi, I see a Kareem. So I'm still trying to find justification for that, but I'll work on that. But I do want these like muscly men and the security men, the bodyguards, and then everyone kind of walks off stage like gradually, just like and here is where the music is going crazy. I want strings, triple forte, gushing strings, gushing hearts, just undulating strings, and brass, these thick, beautiful chords, sustained, like Shostakovich finales, but, you know, a little better orchestrated, I would say. And, you know, woodwinds like wailing, and just like we feel, here I want the orchestra to show what they can do, you know. And so everyone just files off stage as Marcel just like sees the death of his mother before his eyes, the burning, the ultimate betrayal. And then gradually the music kind of dies out and curtain falls. And we send them off to intermission. And the audience, they're not going to want to go intermission. They're going to be so hooked. I'm making a good intermission. And what I want, because I hope there's some kids too, I hope parents bring them because it's a beautiful story. I want the kids to be, no mom, hurry up, we gotta get back. I want people to be so enraptured during the intermission that they rush out to get back to the opera, back to their seats. Though I hope that doesn't cause financial distress for the opera company. But hey, listen, if the audience loves it that much, they're going to want to come back and back and back. And that's the solution. We need to create operas for today, but it has to have a link to the past. The problem is a lot of times people do frivolous things or things that are just for now. Opera is a historical medium. It must look back to the past. And that's what I do. So I do bring modern elements, which is homosexuality, but it is still a very old idea, you know, but it just wasn't talked about as much in the past. And I do show it in the light of the past, like it is considered a sin in this opera. And the people are going on to trial with opera. Final thoughts. Some challenges for me I hope I did a good job of explaining the opera and why I want to create it from scratch. Some challenges for me, I'm seeing already, like I said, if I'm having love scenes between two men, how do I create this feeling of opposites uniting? Because acoustically their voices will be very similar. I'm going to have to rely a lot on the orchestration and the music, the harmony, for sure. Role of women, because it is centered around men, you know, the two lovers are men. I do need to have women in the opera, not to check off boxes, but because we love the female voice. And one of the, like I was saying before, the challenge is if you don't have the female voice in a present way, there's going to feel, the opera is going to feel too low. The audience won't notice consciously, but it's going to feel too somber, and it's going to feel like just too low. So we need some brilliant female voices. Definitely, I have a queen that I see an evil queen, who is trying to, you know, who gives, you know, gets Marcel to a lot of hell, and gets Mehdi to betray Marcel. But she, typically in opera for queens, we have to command authority, we have a lower voice. And definitely for the queen, I'm hearing a, contralto if I can. That's always very expensive. Hey, it's my opera, I'm creating the opera. And but I'm thinking for female characters, I definitely I see a woman, another woman that comes in. Haven't figured out what her shtick is or why she's there yet, but I've seen her in my head, and I see the character already. But she doesn't come until later, and I have to figure out why. And I have to figure out, is it economical? What's the economics of that? Can I wait till after intermission to bring someone in? Does it cost extra money? You know, but I see her, and definitely she will be, I see her as someone on trial as well for homosexuality. She goes on trial. I may burn her at the stake. I don't know. This is an opera, okay? You gotta go extreme, so don't get upset here. This is an opera, okay? I have to whip out the drama, drama galore. And again, I'm still trying to figure out, because I just noticed I was using a number of Arab names, or rather traditional Muslim names, like Karim, Mehdi, and I'm trying to figure out why that is the case. I think first and foremost, I find these names really, really beautiful. But then if you're going to have these names that signify a certain culture, there has to be a justification. So I have to go into that. And that's the beauty of writing your own, just being creator, is sometimes things come to you, but you don't know why. But certainly for an opera, I have to figure out why. I can't just, just let it be. I hope this was a good teaser into what my opera is or going to be. I definitely will be doing many, 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 many videos on this opera. I want to have it on stage within 7 years. Fully on stage by a top-level opera company, production company, within 7 years. This year, I'm working on the libretto. And I've never written a libretto. It may take much longer than I think. I would like to start writing some music at some point this year, but it's going to be hard if the libretto is not finished. I don't know how these things work. Barney Johnson, classical composer. I hope you have a wonderful day.